Oh.
Okay.
Hello, welcome.
What we're going to say
we were
is
muted. Sorry about that.
Caroline Stranders is back, and we're muted. So thanks for coming back, Caroline. So welcome to the Adventurers series. So we're doing a little bit of Old World versus New World. I think no one could hear us because how loud Alex's shirt is the point we probably need to make today.
I mean, check this out. You can buy shirts, but only the finest of designers would ever have one that has Jamie Smith's face on it. But we are, in a serious note, I have to thank the wonderful Eld family, who've been some of our earliest supporters here at Tring Winery. They brought this in and said, "You've got to wear it." And yes, my eyes is absolutely fair. But what a wonderful face to have on your body.
It'd be very self-centered if I had one on myself.
I mean, to be fair, you do have your own face on your own body many of the days of the week, so you're probably okay. But anyway, thank you to the Eld family. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 sets of 2 wines. So if you've got a couple of glasses,
2 glasses,
get a couple of glasses and pour them in. You can do it as a blind tasting if you want to just pour and not look at it and go from there. That's absolutely fine and compare. But we kind of thought when we talk about Old World versus New World, we kind of have the bottles in front of you, and then you can kind of look at the nuances of what there is. So
quite, and this is a good starting point, isn't it? Because we've got. I might just turn the brightness down this a bit because it's quite bright, isn't it?
What, your shirt?
Okay, with the shirt, yeah. So that lets us get Jamie's gone. So it's like being on a sort of green screen thing, and suddenly you've got anyway. But so we have the William Fairfur Chablis, and this is Chablis. I didn't realise this, but the emphasis on the last part of Chablis, not on Chablis, but I mean, pronounce how you like. Who cares? It's wine, for God's sake. But this here is with this funny thing called a cork on top, and this one from Australia does not. It has a screw cap on top, and that's been a big part of the difference between Old World and New World. It's been their willingness to evolve and move to new things, new kind of packaging stuff. So
absolutely. So I know we're an adventure series, so I know you're all world-class wine experts. But for those who might be joining us for the first time and do something like this, just want to confirm we're saying Old World versus New World. What is that?
Yeah, what is that? And that's a good question. It's not as easy to define. But what's the traditional definition?
So your traditional is Old World is places that have always made wine for us, really, that we're seeing that have got these long histories of top quality wines that you see in restaurants and places like that. Because there's lots of things with lots of history.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be classed as Old
Well,
World.
like Georgia is not a classic Old World country, but is the oldest.
And Australia's been making wine since the 1800s.
Yeah.
But there we are.
Yeah.
So Old World is generally Europe, generally cooler climate, generally drier styles of wine, generally more earthy styles of wine and mineral driven. New World, so Old World is France, Germany, Italy, Spain, those kind of places. New World is California, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, generally warmer, generally fruitier. So it used to be, quite easy that you'd pour a glass of wine and go, that's really fruity, so that's Old World, and that's really minerally and earthy, so that's going to be
Old World.
Old World.
Exactly, yeah.
And in between. So we've got a little thing, we've got Slido up tonight, so for those of you who have joined us before, you will see you can add your tasting notes, you can get all that kind of good stuff going. So
Interesting.
So if we get onto Slido, so you can go to towtc.co.uk/taste. You can scan the QR code and get straight in there, or you can go to slido.com and put in 349652, and that will get you in there. So we just thought at the beginning we'd see, who's a New World fanatic, who's an equal opportunity drinker, and no Old World devotees, which is...
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
But we've just said about it, so we're kind of getting in.
Well, I think a lot of the people who are so refined and open and adventurous that they come on the adventure series with us have realised that the world has brought so many delicious, wonderful styles of wine. I had some Burgundies. My very first trip to Burgundy, I won't talk about again. We mentioned this in the past, but my first trip on my own without my parents.
Was he quite young?
Quite young?
Yeah.
Did I go to Clos de Vougeot?
Yeah.
kind of fall in love with some Grand Cru. Yeah. And we do have some old worlds of oceans. I loved that old world. I loved it. I think it was absolutely wonderful. But, you know, the problem is that there were some, frankly, terrible wines. Terrible
Well, you
wines.
tell stories. I'm going to get wine in the glass.
Yeah, let's get some wine in. Yeah, get wine
number one and wine number two
in the glass. I think that's a great idea. So
Alex gets much more interesting after wine number 3.
well, I think the failure rate on it depends how much you've been drinking, but yeah, I think the failure rate on wines from the old world was so huge that it was a really challenging thing to see. But what I would say is that what you say is completely true. It was crystal clear whether it was old world or new world. Now, things are changing quite a bit.
Can you bring us back up? People like to see this.
And yeah.
No, they don't. But...
Well, there you go. So we're back, and things are changing fast, and we've had these discussions pretty much since we met, haven't we? Because we kind of bonded over a love of California,
Yes.
and particularly one producer who was really famous for bringing the old world style to California, and to such an extent that some of the top wine tasters in the world had literally no idea that they could taste these wines and say that was California, that was France.
Absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Yeah.
But there was a really good question that popped up. Is England old world or new world? And I think we'll discuss a lot of things like this. That old world and new world, for me, a lot of it is kind of fading. So England would technically be old world.
Yeah.
Because of its
Well,
premise.
it's Europe,
and
cool
and that kind of
climate,
stuff.
been making wine since Roman times. There's a lot of good reasons why England's old world.
But also because it's new to the game.
Yeah.
You know, those kind of like, 70s, 80s is where it started to get that run. There's
Yeah.
a lot of new world techniques, and it's not governed so much as by the AOC rules or DOCG or whatever that kind of is. There's a couple of places, but
And these are
it's
the
not
rules
kind
which
of
come
there.
with the place that you're in. If you make a wine in a certain place in Europe, you have to follow those rules. You've got to put it in that bottle. You've got to age it for this length of time. You've got to use this kind of yeast. You've got to use these grapes in these percentages. It's
This
really
yield, this alcohol
restrictive. Yeah,
restriction.
you can't even over farm your vineyard or under farm. It's everything is constrained to within this kind of level. So, and why do they do that? Why do they do that?
So it's twofold. It's for typicity of the wine and also to protect the consumer. That if you pick up a Chablis, and we'll go to a video in a second, so I'm not going to overdo it here, but if you pick up a Chablis...
Stop it, Joanna, stop it.
we don't talk about Sussex.
We don't talk about Sussex.
Not today.
Yeah.
But if you pick up a Chablis, you know it's going to be from this particular place, made with this particular grape.
Yep.
The yield has to be this. The alcohol has to potentially be this.
Help yourself, Caroline. Let's pass the bottles over. Share the love. Share the wine.
So there's that protection, but also there's a lot of little chance for innovation because the rules are there, and that's kind of what you're doing over there. But I think what we should do is let's get there's a video to come on. We'll get into the first set of tasting notes for the William Febvre. So the first two wines we've got the William Febvre Chablis, and then we've got the Larry Cherubino Ad Hoc. So what we'll do, we'll get the tasting notes up for the Chablis. We'll do the Chablis video. We'll come back. We'll talk about that very quickly, and then we'll get the tasting notes in for the going for the Larry Cherubino, while we talk a little bit about Australian Chardonnay. So let's dive in.
Sounds
let's look
good
at
to
Chablis.
me.
The Chablis wine growing region is located in France in the north of the Bourgogne region in the Yonne department, between Paris and Beaune. Its story began 150 million years ago, when the region was covered by the sea. It was then that the unique Kimmeridgian soil of the Chablis region was laid down, recognizable by the tiny oyster fossils it contains. Vines were first introduced in Chablis by the Romans between the 1st and 3rd centuries AD. From the 12th century onwards, Cistercian monks of the Abbey of Pontigny, the second of the 4 daughter houses of the Citeaux Abbey, ensured the region prospered. Thanks to its proximity to Paris, accessible by the Yonne River from the town of Auxerre, Chablis wines were soon a regular feature on the tables of the kings of France, and went on to conquer Europe soon establishing a global reputation. Chablis wines are simple. They're made from a single varietal, the Chardonnay grape. They are always white, and they come in 4 appellations. Petit Chablis, with almost 1,000 hectares planted on the plateaus. Chablis, covering the biggest surface area, with 3,500 hectares. Chablis Premier Cru, on favorable slopes with around 800 hectares. And lastly, Chablis Grand Cru, grown on one single hill with the very best orientation and covering just 100 hectares. The Chablis region is crossed from south to north by the river Serein, which flows into the Yonne. The river and its tributaries have carved out valleys and hills, and the climat of the Chablis region sit on either side, on these slopes that are so well suited to wine growing. But what is a climat? A climat is a specific terroir that offers a subtle balance between aspect, varietal, slope, altitude, and soil type. Each climat has its own identity that is expressed through the grapes that grow there. Vaux, Val, Mont, Côte. One just needs to read the wine labels to see that the local geography is often behind the names of the climat. On the left bank, in little valleys perpendicular to the Serein, some 24 climats are located, mostly facing east or southeast. The most famous of them are Vaillon and Montmain. But there are also Forêt, Bouteaux, Les Beauregards, Bourrois, Côte de l'Éché, Vaux-de-Vez, one of the most steeply sloping climats, Vaux-Ligneaux, and Vosgou. On the right bank, there are 16 Chablis Premier Cru climats, the most famous of which are Fourchaume, Mont-de-Milieu, and Montée de Tonnerre. Other less well-known Premier Cru climats include Les Fourneaux and Vaucoupin. And lastly, on a slope below the village of Chablis, the Chablis Grand Cru appellation is grown on 7 climats with, from east to west, Blanchot, Les Clos, Valmur, Grenouille, Vaudésir, Preuze, and lastly Bougros. In all, almost 100 hectares enjoy this exceptional location. Today, this little wine-growing region produces around 40 million bottles, of which almost 2/3 are exported. Each climat provides white wines of great purity. And as you explore the footpaths that wind their way through the vineyards, you too will understand what makes Chablis wines so elegant, rich, and diverse.
I really love a bit of Chablis, don't you, mate?
Why? Is that, I don't know. But anyway, I think that really shows, Chablis, it's not one thing is everything. And I know, tonight we've got just a domain Chablis, but you can see where all those little different places are, and each of those parcels will make something vastly, vastly different. But
it's an incredible thing to watch, and it's an incredible thing to see. But I mean, I've never been to Chablis.
I've never been to Chablis.
You've never been to Chablis.
I've been to Chablis.
Caroline has been to Chablis. So
Caroline's going to come and tell us about
will you
that.
come and talk to us about it?
Because while that video was playing, hello everyone.
Back.
I told a little story when I was a junior marketeer in a wine company, and I had the absolute privilege of being invited over to Chablis by Michel Laroche, who's an amazing producer over there. And we had a vineyard tour, and literally we were standing on one hill, and he said, okay, so on this side of the hill, it's Petit Chablis, because it doesn't get as much sun. and on that side of the hill is actually because it gets as much the most amount of sun you can get in this region, and it's literally that, you know, that enclosed. It's one side of the hill and the other side of the hill, and it really brought it home to me what an amazing region Chablis is.
Thank you, Caroline. That's very kind of you to share, and we're not at all jealous. But it's funny. This is part of so many wine regions, is that, you know, the simple things that look so tiny a detail, like is it pointing that way, is it pointing the other, can make a difference in the style of wine. But Chablis has been at the cooler end of the Burgundy white wine spectrum. Very much so, until recently. And so, what when you've got a cool climate Chardonnay, the characteristics you're looking for are more the simpler sort of lemons
the very
and limes,
crisp, the lemon, the freshness, and, you know, people use the minerality terms, that limey, chalky, those kind of things.
And we get that. We're seeing wet stones.
We've got wet stone. We've got all these things, and around the edge, a lot of these classically Chablis things. But there's a couple of things that are creeping in that probably 10 years ago you wouldn't have found the Chablis. The kiwi, the melon, the honeysuckle. So when I first tasted it, melon was my very first. So I was like, oh my God, I'm actually getting into ripe melon kind of flavours, which were traditionally a bit south of Chablis. South of Burgundy, getting into Polini and places like that, you'd find that. But there's a couple of great questions there that we could poke on and go on it forever, but there's which one are we starting with?
Sorry.
Other finger.
So from John here, the question of, you know, where a country could be is, and it is, and things are tweaking and changing. I think this old world, new world debate was very much for a kind of...
It was a starting point for conversation, wasn't it?
Starting place for conversation. I like that. I'm taking that. It's a starting place for conversation. But it was almost about more stylistically. So if something was richer and fruity, it was claimed new world. If something was dry, like we talked about earlier, would have been an old world. And we're starting to, rather than saying something is old world or new world, we're putting that little word on the back end, style,
yes.
So we go, we've gone to California, but this Chardonnay is a little bit more old world in style, or it's got a little bit warmer and riper, really. So, you know, this Chianti is a little bit more new worldy style. Yeah. And I really believe, and I don't know if it's controversial or everyone agrees with me, I'm thinking about 10, 15 years, the old world, new world debate will be out the window. It'll be meaningless, and it'll be about knowing a place, a region, the winemaker, and what they kind of do. Because you can go to California now, and you can have a Chardonnay here, and it's big, buttery, oaky, rich.
Classic old
and you walk across the street, and it tastes like Chablis. It's crisp, it's mineral, or it tastes like what we expect Chablis to be.
From Chablis,
And I think that's the thing. Old world, new world is kind of an expectation of what the style will be.
And these two are interesting examples because both of them are kind of juxtapositions of it. You know, Jonty, as Finn said, Jonty is really nails this. This has the minerality of a Chablis for sure, but we have tried some wines from places like Essex and Kent that have more of the classic Chablis style. They are more at the crisp, dry, acidic, maturing, fresh, simple lemon apple, because they tend to sort of restrain the kind of the conversion of this malic acid which you associate with apple
I have
into
a question on that.
Yeah, okay.
Is that based on our climate and the ability to ripen the fruit to get more of the tropical flavours, or is it a winemaking choice?
So Caroline's very sensibly said, what are the kind of decision points that feed into that? Is it based on where you are and the climate, or is it based on the decision that the people making the wine make? Do we pick the grapes now? Do we let them develop the more riper flavours? It's a really, really interesting question. And Kathy, I think, just made an excellent point. When the winemaker is sitting down going, what am I going to make? You decide the style of wine you want to make first of all. Now, it might not be possible to make the style you want to with the raw materials you have, but you've got a chance. So this one is trying to stay on the Chablis style, but the climate has affected it. It's dragged it over into those riper fruits like melon. it's still got its minerality from those crazy old soils with all of the sort of the chalk and everything. But this one, I think when we go on to it, if I had blind tasted this one, I would have said it was a Burgundy, no question. I would never, ever, ever, ever have said that was Australian. And so if I'd had to have got these wrong, absolutely the wrong way around. And that's cool.
So this is a really interesting point, and the tasting notes are up for the shot. So I'll do a quick intro to what we've got to this, because I think this is absolutely imperative. That's a little bit over the top for a wine tasting on a Friday night.
You must do this.
Imperative. So this is Larry Cherubino's ad hoc hen and chicken Chardonnay from Pemberton. So Western Australia. Going a little bit further up the market, really like great southerny kind of part of it, but you're Western Australia.
So quite damp, quite cool, so sort of rainforesty characteristics coming in there.
Absolutely, but very close to the ocean.
Yeah.
So you get, and that's some of the coldest water in the world. So you get this cooling, moderating climate, because you go south of there, you hit Antarctica. That's all you've got there.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool. Like Larry does a lot of just lets it go. He's a very chilled out winemaker. He's absolutely phenomenal.
Ad hoc
Takes his motorbike through the vineyards. It's also called Hen and Chickens because Chardonnay doesn't always ripen evenly. No. And you'll get on the same bunch, you'll get these little berries. So it's the hen and chickens. This is a little bit of time in oak, a little bit of richness in there, but I'll let you put your tasting notes in. But I go back to Jonty's point about old world, new world, and value and costs.
Yeah.
And I believe and I think it's about how wine's becoming more global, because it used to be the you had really expensive wines, but it was the really expensive wines that got on the restaurant wine list in London. So you get your Cru Classé growths, you get your Chateauneuf de Pape. At the same time, you had these little Languedoc-y things that cost like €2 in. But the stuff that was getting in from other parts from the New World was about oddity and getting foothold in the market. So we saw from Argentina some very, very cheap Malbecs coming over, from Australians coming over, those kind of things, And people associated the New World with being cheap and value. But nowadays, you walk into a high-end restaurant with a global wine list, I don't think there's much difference. If you go back and you're drinking wine from the the 60s, 70s, 80s, there's that big jump. I was in a lovely restaurant last night and they had 1995.
How were you?
Yeah, I was. I had 1995 Petrus on the list for £950 a glass.
Oh my!
Please tell your friends to buy more online wine tasting clubs. So next time I go, I can do that. But
if we could buy any glass of wine, that would be a good start. But yes, wow.
But
okay.
What you're starting to see is with the hundreds and hundreds of pounds of first, second, third growth Bordeaux's, you've got Holland Estate, Screaming Eagle. You go to Argentina, Purple Angel from Montes Alpha. You've got wines like that. You go to
Super Tuscans
Australia.
as well.
Well, I'm talking about New World versus Old World, but Super Tuscan's back in Old World.
True. Okay, fair enough. Yep. But I'm just not the traditional thing from that region.
But you go to Australia, you're seeing range. So I think it used to be the New World ones came in and they were cheap and cheerful, were drinkable and quaffable, and they were meant to be value, bulk, get on with it wines. Yeah. But as people like those styles, it was able to jump off. And you look at Cathy with Al Passion, you go.
Yeah. Right.
Argentinian wines got that foothold that allowed us to go, I like Malbec. Yeah. Well, I liked it at £6. What's it like at £12? Then what's it like at... And then, it was Argentinian Malbec, and then it was Argentinian Malbec from Mendoza, and then it was Argentinian Malbec from this particular part of Mendoza, wherever that was. And then from a particular part of Mendoza, it was from a single vineyard at however many metres high.
And the altitudes being this uniquely
to now
Argentinian
see that
thing.
from the New World, which allows these top quality wines to come in. Yeah. So I think price-wise, we're starting to see more of a level play field in real top-class, world-class wines. Yeah. And and you go for the cheaper wines. There is very cheap Languedoc things. There's very cheap, southern Italy, Sicily. Some really cheap, good value for money wines with the rest of the world for the New World wines.
It's funny because I think level playing field. It feels a much more level playing field. But but also you are always affected by your respect for the region so much. And I think what's just happened is that Napa Valley, Oregon, Uka Valley, Mornington Peninsula, all of these some of these regions have elevated themselves. It's not to say it's a perfectly level playing field, because you'll get a wine, and we've tried Bordeaux blends from Bulgaria, and they were just as good as anything that we've tasted. Those ones are not on a level playing field, and so it's up to us as consumers to be really open about it, try things, and not to assume it's going to be great. It might be awful. I went to at the London Wine Fair. We went together one day, and the next day I went to a Ukraine kiosk, and I drank through a few of the Ukrainian wines. And I am a massive pro-Ukraine person. I think it was what the spirit they've shown in the resistance against the Russians is awe-inspiring.
It's making it political.
However, you knew there's going to be a but at that point, didn't you?
Of course.
And of course. And I was open. I tried them. I tried the wines, and I tried a Cabernet Franc from southern western Ukraine, which has had this amazing story of perseverance. They had a Russian S-300 rocket land in the middle of their vineyard. They had to get bomb removal squads because they couldn't prune it. They couldn't prune their vineyard because there's a rocket sticking out of the ground. I mean, that's problems that most vineyards don't have to deal with genuinely, and we would love to do a Ukraine test. We tried to do one for charity.
Yeah. It was trying to source enough wines.
It was trying to source the wines. They weren't there. They were not there. It wasn't the right wine. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for me personally. Might have worked for other people, but it wasn't my favourite kind of wine, and I felt really guilty. But be open to it. Be open. Try the things. It's a level playing field if you are a level playing field. If you have an open spirit to try anything from any country without bringing in that baggage going, I don't think this country can do good wine.
Absolutely. And I think this is a nice little segue that we'll get 3 and 4 in the glass. So we can do a red Burgundy.
Do the tasting notes from wine.
Yeah, let's do the wine too. Yeah.
So, we've got some of the rich, a lot of things back, but we've got a lot of, richness in there. We've got the peachy flavours. We've got
hints of head and chicken.
I think I might know who put that in.
It's Chardonnay. Which grapes are they using? Do you mean the Ukrainian ones?
I could not tell you. We will find out in the next.
I had a Cab Franc. They had some Bordeaux stuff. They've done some sweet stuff down in Crimea, but then the Russians took it and gave it to Italian winemakers.
But there's lots of stuff going in here. So I think it's a more complicated, complex wine. And I think put in the chat. Did you have a preference? Wine 1, wine 2, and it's not just at this point. Wine 1 might be better for a sunny day sat outside. Wine 2 might be better with a little bit of food. But put your points in the chat.
Interesting.
But as we get 3 and 4 into the glass, we've got 2 Pinot Noirs.
Yeah.
So we've got a Burgundy from Bouchard Perfy, and we've got Campbell. But we've just been talking about people's expectations and what they think of wines, and American wine really didn't come to the forefront until the mid 70s, when they did exactly that. And there was a thing called the Judgment of Paris, which was set up by a wine shop owner and then wine critic Stephen Spurrier, and they smuggled.
Eventually, a vineyard owner himself. After he died,
Valley in Dorset, yes. But they smuggled a bunch of American wines into France to do a blind tasting that no one knew. But I could talk about it, but we've got a lovely little video that will talk us through what happened.
Courtesy of Vineyard Cellars, which is owned by the wonderful Sir Peter Michael, if they have the Vineyard Hotel down in Newbury, just outside Newbury, beautiful hotel, got some nice spa, swimming pool kind of things going on. But he also owns a wine estate just northwest of Calistoga in the Napa Valley, and he makes some fantastic wines himself. He knows wine, but he was so enamoured by the story of how, to give it its context, people in the 70s, nobody gave New World the time. No one gave it a chance. And the only way that he was able to sort of bring these wines in was to smuggle them. He had to sneak them into France, and he told the top judges, "You're going to taste these wines," and he did not say much about them. What was what?
Let's see.
So yeah,
what it was all
we'll see the
about.
video. Yeah.
About a really dramatic story that took place in France in 1976, and it's a story which is really well known in America. It's very well known, but has been suppressed in France and has not been told at all in the UK. It's about really an article that was placed in Time magazine by a guy called George Tabor, who attended this famous tasting, and he had the brilliant idea of saying this was the judgment of Paris. And it was the judgment put together by Stephen Spurrier, an Englishman living in Paris on the right bank.
I had a wine shop in the middle of Paris, which I bought in 1971, and subsequently I took over the place next door and opened a wine school, l'Académie du Vin, which was the first private wine school in France. We became a center point for California, visiting California vintners, and for American wine writers like Alexis Bespalov and Robert Finnegan. And so I began to be exposed to California wine, and I was astounded on the quality of particularly the Chardonnays and the Cabernet Sauvignons. And so my partner in the wine school was an American girl called Patricia Gallagher, and she had some vacation in September 75, and I said, look, Patricia, go to California, check it out, and if you think the wines is really as good as the wines we've been shown, we'll hold a tasting. And so she came back raving about the wines, and so we put in the groundwork for the tasting. I wanted to put the wines in front of a panel of experts so that I would at least get the best opinion in France. And so we had Pierre Terry, who's Chateau Giscard in Bordeaux, Aubert de Villaine, de Medela Romanée-Conti in Burgundy, Jean-Claude Vrignard, the restaurant Taille-Levant, Raymond Oliver, the restaurant Le Grand Vrai-Fort, Odette Kahn, the owner of the Rue de Vin de France. So our panel of 9 people was totally impeccable. And it was only about a week before the tasting, I realized that just to give them a tasting of California wines would not achieve what I wanted, because I wanted recognition of the quality of California wines. And so my conclusion was, even though in the best will of the world they would have liked to appreciate the California wines, they would have known that California is somewhere north of Mexico, and they would have treated these California wines rather like something from southern Spain. So the only way I could get an independent opinion was to do a blind tasting with the best wines from Bordeaux and the best wines from Burgundy.
What happened here, unexpectedly and shockingly, was that both the white wine and the red wine were chosen as from California.
What I was after was recognition for California wine. And because George Tabor of Time magazine was there, he was doing a wine course at my wine school, and he wrote it up in Time magazine, The Judgment of Paris. And at that point, there was no way that anyone could stop the publicity. So the publicity began, and it was the first chink in the wall of French supremacy in wine.
It was a shock, and there was a movie made called Bottle Shock, which is a double entendre. It certainly caused a riot in Paris, and Le Monde had precious little to say to it. There was another repeat tasting, because when it was discovered that the French wines had come quite a long way down the list, a number of comments were made. One of them was, well, of course, wines from California mature earlier than those from France. Try it in 10, 20, 30 years' time. And 30 years later, well, in fact, in 10 years and 30 years later, Mr. Spurrier decided he would do it again. And I was at that tasting in 2006. The very same wine from Stag's Leap actually came top of the list, to everyone's amazement. What this tasting really proved was that the differences between the very top quality wines of France and the very top quality wines of California is so difficult to tell that had the tasting been done on a different day, a different result would have almost certainly been the outcome.
I didn't really know the story of the wine tasting event. I was aware of Judgment in Paris from old master paintings, so it's quite an interesting take on that theme. And it sounded interesting, but I loved the way that Sir Peter told the story. He had a real sort of tempered passion about it. You could see that he was really involved. And that kind of triggered my imagination. And I could see images starting to sort of like formulate in my mind. So it seemed like a winner from the start to me. Just like, I thought it had great potential. I mean, the idea of the supposed underdog sort of like taking on and beating a sort of long-established champion sounds like a great story in itself. But the fact that there was so much personal interest from Sir Peter Michael and having his own vineyard out in California, it just had a great story. So every day I was in the studio, I took a photograph. So you can see it on this video from when it's a blank canvas to how it is now. And the last photograph was when it was installed on Wednesday. And so you see the last image from the studio, which looks great, and I was very pleased with it. And then it's here with the lights on, and it was like, ta-da! It's like it comes to life. It really does sort of fit in there well, so I'm very pleased with it.
It's the event. It's the event. It captures a dramatic moment when people are surprised, shocked, and this tells the story of the tasting.
It's a great story. It's well told. The tasting gives way to a silence and then an explosion. And that explosion is shown here in graphic detail.
I think it's one of my better pieces, and I'm really proud to put my name on it.
First thing you see coming into this entrance hall is this picture behind me, but you see it from some 15 or 20 meters away, and as you open the vista, it then opens up as this extraordinary picture that Gary Myatt has crafted, and he's produced, I think, an absolute masterpiece.
So I just
Welcome
think
back.
that was such, an epic story in wine. Sometimes, it's, wine is wine and you drink it there. But just the whole concept that it was there was only one journalist there because
Yeah.
no one thought there was any point of it.
No, it was inevitable.
And 11 of the 12 judges were French.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it really kind of shows that when you don't have a preconceived notion of what something is,
yeah.
you give it a chance. Sometimes it can be awful.
And that's what
fine.
blind tasting does to you. It forces you to concentrate on the juice. And I'm going to be controversial because it is good to concentrate on the juice, of course. It's good to concentrate on the wine. It's good to concentrate on the flavours. But if you don't take into consideration the struggles of the people who made it, their values, the moment you take those into consideration, they taste different. And something that is not tasted blind will taste better because it makes you feel better. It makes you feel these people cared about the soil. These people cared about their environment. These people cared about tradition. These people cared about carrying on what their 15 generations of family been doing. And we've got two different wines here, two different sets of values that have gone into them. And that, I think, is what makes wine so interesting. You don't get that from Coca-Cola or kombucha or gin and
There's
tonic.
so
in the
many
same
of these
way.
other things that they're made
Yeah.
to a...
That's the recipe.
And if it doesn't sell, guess what? They tweak the recipe until
Yeah.
it does. Things like that, it changes, and it's done like that. The level of, some of these old world wines, the level of tradition.
Mm-hmm.
How did you learn wine? Learned from my dad, and he learned from his dad, and he learned from his dad. And when places like Bouchard started, there wasn't a lab to check your free sulfites, was there? You looked at it, you say, well, we've got this is what's come off, and is it a refractometer? You can go out and check the stuff. The grape.
Yeah.
They didn't do that.
No.
They picked a grape off the vine. They ate it
taste
and go,
it, yeah.
that's
That's-
ready to go.
that's
Let's
right.
harvest it, or we're going to come back in 3 days. And that is what is amazing about old world wines, is that level of history and how they were able to create that.
And the fact, I think
tech.
the fact that the families were able to go back through the vintages in their cellar. They have these references of all of the different different vintages they've made, reflecting all the different climate conditions that they've had. And when you talk, there's a wonderful film of Burgundy, and I can't remember its name, which is deeply annoying. Caroline, look it up and we'll tell people. But it's worth watching. It's a French film about I think a year in Burgundy or something like that.
Be confused with A Year in Provence.
Not to be confused. I've probably confused it with A Year in Provence. But it shows how the children of the winemaker were brought up tasting
Burgundy?
Back to Burgundy. That's it. Thank you. Back to Burgundy. The children were brought up tasting a piece of lychee, tasting blackberry, then tasting wine. When they were like 6, they were just, they were having a little lick of a fingerful of wine, nothing harmful at all, and trying to identify the kind of fruits that they could do in it. Those are skills that are built up generations, built up through the land and the people that work it and the knowledge of what is needed on that row and not that row.
Like that, that tasting is an amazing thing. It gets built in, and it's from years and years and years. Because I could turn around and pick this wine up and say it tastes like boysenberry.
Yeah.
And if you've never had a boysenberry, you've got no clue. That's maybe a weird, but if you've never had you're from a different part of the world and you've never had a blackcurrant or a mango or an apple, or if you've not got those reference points. And if you've got these kids growing up they've had all these reference points. Yeah. And I used to do something when I did training. People would go, "Oh, what do you get in that? What do you get in that?" And we had so much, it's in DC, a fantastic spread of all these fruits, all these vegetables. We'd go and go. People are, "Oh, it tastes like this and this and this." We go and get all that stuff, chuck it in a blender. Does that taste like that? And we go, "Yeah, it does." "Oh, no, it doesn't." I think that was really, really cool.
Interesting. I think I've got one of the things that gave me the biggest respect for Jamie when I first met him was that he had done these unconventional teaching techniques with an awful lot of people who were training for their highest levels in wine. People who are training for the Masters of Wine, and he'd been an absolute bastard to them. He'd go and put some red food colouring in a white wine.
Built character.
See if they were tricked by their eyes.
But all of that generational knowledge, that's what creates the price premium, right?
It creates a price premium. Does it create a better wine?
No. Anyway,
good.
Not always.
John T is running the show tonight because I'm just following John T because this is fantastic. The conflict between the idea and knowing and things like that. Okay. And
this is deep tonight.
And I completely believe
it was going to
be. There's been some. I've been lucky to drink some great wines, and I've drunk some good wines with great friends and things, and that wine has elevated that experience. I've tasted some really, really good wines, kind of judging and stuff like that, and you're picking out for what it is. But there's something to say about the history, and you can take it about anything. Okay, you can, And I don't want anyone to shout about what football team they support or something like that, okay? But I'm just going to say, do not support Liverpool. But I have been to a European semi-final at Anfield, okay?
Yeah.
And that is more than just a football match. The people, the
That's
atmosphere.
incredible.
So you can say, and then with those things, like John said,
feeling the weight of history.
I am here drinking Chateau Margaux, which goes back to... Is it the best wine I've made? That's irrelevant to the conversation.
But it changes your perception.
That perception. It's a part of this. It's a part of history. It's a part of that. And there can be Dave down the road who's just made this year the best wine you've ever tasted. You go, wow, this is phenomenal wine. But there's not the story and the history and the people that go with it.
But if I know I've had a meal that's been made by, created by Heston Blumenthal and made by his amazing team of chefs in the kitchen, then I think about all the things that I know about Heston Blumenthal. I think about, his scientific approach towards this, that and the other, and that's going to affect my opinion about how much I enjoy. What I'm looking for, whether I'm looking for a fulfillment, whether I'm looking for a kind of validation of the money I've spent, there's so many psychological factors coming to it.
Isn't it all an experience?
It's just an experience. Spot on. It's an experience.
Should we have a quick look at tasting notes?
Let's look at the tasting notes for the Burgundy.
So this is you can do your pronunciation because you can talk.
Montelly.
So this is our Montelly. So we're between Meursault and Volnay. 100% Pinot Noir from Bouchard Perfis.
And you got Merceau's primarily a Chardonnay place, so
absolutely. And so to get a little bit of red
interchangeable.
wine down here, where it's a little bit warm, so it's a richer style of Burgundy.
Yes.
It really is. Most of your top end Pinot Noirs are right in the north of the coast, just a little bit further down. So it's a little bit of richness about it. But Bouchard make wine from just a Van de Bourgogne all the way up. They've got some Grand Cru vineyards and all that kind of stuff. And there's a point in here, I think Finn popped. The chat is great tonight. I love
chat's
you guys.
fantastic. You guys are on fire.
About Old World versus New World because of corks versus screw caps.
Yeah.
And people go, well, if it's in a screw cap, it can't be any good because it can't age, it can't breathe, it can't. And that was the beginning of screw caps. It was a steel top that went on the top or a tin top. But now, you've got all these layers with it. Have you seen a little pad in the bottom of your
in the top of the screw cap?
Screw cap.
You
It's
pull
layers
that
and
little
layers and
pad.
layers.
Sometimes it gets stuck, doesn't it? Stuck to
It's
the top of
something
the
you pop it up. Done. But there's layers there that allow oxygenation. There's moisture control, and it does all these things that allows the wine to do what it wants to do. So you're able
and
to
some wines
have wines
need
designed to age.
something, and some wines need to not have the same thing, particularly oxygen. So if you've put a Barolo in a bottle and you put a screw cap on that won't let any oxygen in, the Barolo will taste terrible. It will be tannic, awful, aggressive,
because these are the wines we talk about
sulphurous.
we need to lay down, and that's what a cork does.
It's got to be laid down over time to let some air in. If you do the same thing with a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, oh my gosh, you don't want to lay it down with a classic cork because after a year
with
it's
a classic
dead.
Coca-Cola.
Lay it down with a classic Coca-Cola. But let's focus on the Pinot.
Look at the tasting notes here.
Yeah.
It's so the level of complexity, the earthy, the plumminess, and
Meaty.
for
Meaty
me,
is a really key thing. Those dried meats.
This is classic
Classic
old
Burgundy.
world tasting notes. Yeah.
Oh.
There's fruit, but there's so many of the secondary and tertiary characteristics,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what we expect here. So if we'll take a snapshot of that. And let's flick on to the next one so we can get our tasting notes in there so we can do a comparison of the two. I'm just kind of talking, so if you follow along, Stratus, that would be great.
I mean, it's unusual that I follow.
Tom Jones, Tom Jones,
Meanwhile,
it's not
Strong's in the
unusual.
chat talking about FMCG, and Kathy's talking about closures and OTR.
Raised the point about a Coca-Cola wine.
It's
and
true.
You know,
It's true.
it's what most people are
And
buying in Tesco.
Colin opened a bottle of wine that had a pop-off top, that had a crown cap.
Big cap.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a few of them. They're a bit few and far between. We do so
Could have been Pet
there's a
Nat.
lot in Pet
Lot of
Nat,
Pet
but
Nats,
we've got in the shop here. We do a fantastic wine from Lubanzi, and I think we've done their Chenin Blanc, a red blend on the
Yeah,
thing
the
before.
first black female winemaker in South Africa.
No, that's Alcina. Lubanzi is the wandering dog. Try again. We can
My
edit
bad.
that out.
Same
Shucks.
Shucks. The same importer and the same wonderful man who brings the wine to different brand names. Sorry about that.
It's fine.
My bad.
But that comes under a crown cap. And there's also in California, there's Domaine Chandon, which is Moët Chandon's American
Moët
house in
Chandon.
California. And they have a wine toile, which has a crown cap, but they also have this cool little device that it just takes the crown cap off, but it's golden and it bends over and it's got this little ridge and you just pop it on and it's like, oh,
Really?
that's so cool. And it makes the crown cap go, that's
Oh, that's
exciting.
awesome. I've not seen that. I'll have to check that.
Sealing is a big part of wine and what,
big deal.
and for us, with what we do, with what you guys get with the online wine tasting club, it's like, it's about how could it be a good wine if it's in a pouch?
If it's in a pouch.
And that's how we're trying to change the world. But we're not going to get him into that,
let's
or we'll
not
be
do
here
that.
till midnight.
We spent all day talking about that to the Wine Society, so we won't any further.
Oh, name dropping.
Oh, name dropping. Let's pick that up. We yeah. So, as you know, we pack for ourselves, pack for other people. If you've seen things that looks like our product,
It's probably
us. It's probably us. So yeah. But this wine,
If you need a really good advent calendar, buy the
Laithwaite's Fine Wine Advent Calendar. Yeah, we've shown it off before, but go get it. For anyone else. So these two wines, I starting with observation, they look remarkably similar colours and colour intensities. So the colour being, let's start with, is it red, is it pink, is it brown? They're about the same. It's remarkably similar. And the colour intensity is very, very, very similar to them. It's almost like they're the same grape from a similar sort of climate. Yeah. Oh, is he doing that?
That's our promo.
There you go.
Lathwaite's Adnan Calling.
Yeah,
Great wines,
24 wines. Top wines.
Drink it.
There we go.
And if you don't like it, buy one and send it to us.
I'll make your advent calendar with the ones you haven't drunk yet. Good call. Good call. I think we could do that with the ones we haven't sold. So, what a cool thing to look at two wines on opposite halves of the world, and they look the same. They smell remarkably similar, but they taste really different. I think it's remarkably different.
Ooh, Colin's got a great point here about gold mesh cages around.
Your Rioja bottles.
So for vodka, and Kathy, you got to catch up then. Go.
Yeah, get on with it.
So the
bring them to our dinner.
So the mesh cages Rioja, and it was to really kind of offer. It was one of the first things that stopped people counterfeiting wine, because it looks like you cannot get that out of the bottle, out of the cage without cutting it. So it's Marquis de Riscal were the first people that did it, and you saw it go around Rioja. So people not forging these top-end wines going from there.
I love that.
So we talked a little bit about Bouchard. So the second wine number 4, is from Jackson Family, and Jackson Family is a fairly big American wine estate, and they've got holdings in the States, they've got holdings in other places, around the world. But this is Julia's Vineyard, named after Julia Jackson, and it was named after her in 1986. So it's a female-owned, female-run, female winemakers, Pinot Noir, Cambria. So we're in Santa Maria, which is in Santa Barbara, which is, I think, one of mine and Alex's favourite places for making wine.
Oh my God! World. I just what? Oh my God!
Sorry,
no
I'm
marriage.
back.
We've got no marriage counselling included. Okay, so Santa Barbara County. Go up from Los Angeles and along to the west a bit. You'll find Santa Barbara, but the Santa Barbara County kind of covers this entire sort of section that lives inland. There's sections which are next lakes. There's the sections which get mists rolling in from the Pacific Ocean, and it is a fantastic. It contains some of the best, well, in fact, one of the best named AVA's, American viticultural areas, in history.
Are you picking Happy Canyon?
I'm picking Happy Canyon, the happy place for making wine. So, Cambria itself is this beautiful kind of coastal town, which has beaches full of seals, and like not these kind of seals.
And not Kiss from a Rose seal.
Not Kiss from a Rose seal. No, Heidi Klum is nowhere near it.
Can you imagine?
It's adventure series, people.
It is stunning.
But the most important thing for Alex is just a quick walk through the mountains to Neverland Ranch. Am I wrong?
No, I'm not. He's not wrong. So it turns out that the Jackson are quite close to the Jackson family ranch, and so we
family.
If you go inland from the coast, you'll find Sideways country. For those who've watched the film Sideways, through Buellton, which is where they stay in the film, through to Solvang, which is this crazy Danish place where everybody eats Danish pastries every day. It's so bizarre. And then get up Los Olivos, which is where the famous scene happens with I'm not drinking any fucking Merlot. I said the words.
You did.
Sorry,
it's part of shit.
It's
No, it's not. It's
said.
5 to 9.
It's
You need help.
adventurous.
It's adventure. We're okay. We can say. And if you go a little bit up into the mountains, just beyond that, you will find the Neverland Ranch, which is where Michael Jackson lived. I'm going to leave it at that. But you also find the Cambria estate.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in. Rebecca, I wish we could, but we just purely do Oh,
Unsold old packs.
yeah, Black Friday deal. Buy 3, get them at the same price as 3. Deal.
Didn't you just do it?
We've just done a big deal. We have done a big deal.
We just did a buy 2 get 1 free deal.
Which is largely because we need to clear the space in the fridge for the Laithwaite's tasting calendars. But anyway, we'll do something.
Yeah,
soon.
Kathy's
We'll do
on your
something
side. We were quoting
swearing
about
about that.
okay.
Exactly.
We didn't need to go. Sit.
I actually quite like Merlot, and as it turns out, I like quite like Merlot-based blends.
So let's have a look at the tasting notes on wine number 4 and see how we compare to that. And personal opinions in the chat, 3 or 4 on this. So it looks
Badger. That's their moment there.
and bear. We've got bear.
Okay.
Yeah, please excuse
Sour
any
cherry.
silliness.
So from looking at them and smelling them, okay, they seem quite similar. But the tasting notes between the two
astonishingly different.
are very old world and
versus
very
new
world.
But and we
Shall
got.
I bring up the old one?
I'm just going to say, Rebecca and anyone else, if you missed it, send us an email and we'll get you a code for a buy 2
we'll
get
give
1
you-
free
we'll
deal.
give you
Okay,
the
we'll get that
codes.
sorted
Of
to get you
course
ready
we
for
will.
Christmas.
Of
Okay?
course we will.
Sorry.
No, have you just shown the spam?
Yeah, sorry. I tried to block it and I pressed it instead.
Oh, thank you,
back-
YouTube.
back for
I
one
bet that's
weekend,
Elon
mate.
Musk's fault as well. I think for me that demonstrates not the difference between Old World and New World, because New World Pinot Noir is quite different to this.
Yeah, I think this is a subtle style. I think
Yeah.
a lot of the New World Pinots, you're in like Sonoma County.
Yep.
They're big, they're bold, they're jammy.
They've got quite a bit of
what's the alcohol on this?
Zinfandel in them.
Still
This is 14.
14%.
It's 14. So we got 12.5 versus 14%. Massive difference. But actually, with this one, it's in balance. And I've said in previous tastings I don't like 14% Pinot Noirs.
So
This one is balanced.
That's the old world again, just
Yeah, that's the old world.
We've got a lot of the
Earthy.
stalky, earthy,
Stalky.
tannin, cranberry, that kind of like dried fruity kind of thing.
Yeah,
And then
meat.
when we go back to we're cherry,
Spice,
we're
cherry,
chocolate, we're spice.
vanilla.
It's quintessentially what it
Yeah.
should be. But I think this it's absolutely New World, but it's not smash you in the face New World.
It's got enough of the Old World to make you
It's got
feel.
some elegance about
It's
it.
got
just
elegance.
about to say that, yeah.
Well, you should have done
Good.
that, just
It's good. And I love the Montelli, and then the fact that it's the Premier Cru, it's a cool wine. It's a cool wine, but that is the same
look
style.
at that.
But
Jonty's in a 1-1. We're going to sudden death penalty shootout for the third round.
there is a bit of difference in age. 2017, you will expect the fruit flavours to diminish a little bit. So, is there more fruit in the Julia's Vineyard Cambria wine? Yes, and that's right. That's how it should be. So, number 4 should have less fruit. More fruit.
While he's talking, if you want a pretty picture over his face, we've got a picture of Cambria Vineyard, so we can put that up while he continues
yeah,
to
we
talk.
can do that. Where's that? Oh, it's up. There you go. I genuinely think Cambria is just one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's kind of
It's blocked me out, not
I
him.
know, I can't move
You can't move it, that's fine.
well,
So there
In
we
there.
are. So
he's a vineyard.
do you think we're ready to move on to the third pairing? We're
I
seeing,
think we should. If we're
Can
about
I just leave that picture there?
leave that there for
that is
eternity.
rude. That is rude.
So we're
So our next
we
pairing-
talked about this. We talked about what to do for the next one, because Chardonnay and Pinot
Leads
are
to
the
Bordeaux.
classic sort of old world versus new world pairings to go for. It's what the Judgment of Paris was. No, it's not. It's not, is it? Sorry.
No, the Judgment
the
of
Pinot
Paris
is the
was
new version. Chardonnay and Bordeaux.
The 2018 they put a Pinot round in. So it was
Correct.
originally
Sorry.
Chardonnays, which Chateau Montelena won.
Montelena
and then it
and
was
Pinot Bordeaux,
blends,
which was Stag's Leap. Stag's Leap, yeah.
So it's the 1976
Yeah.
Chardonnay and the 1973 Stag's Leap,
Yeah.
which are wonderful, wonderful wines, but now really expensive.
Yeah.
So we thought we would do Bordeaux, because we do Old World versus New World Bordeaux without, and the two places in the world that you go Bordeaux style blends are Bordeaux,
Bordeaux
and California.
or Napa. Yeah.
So
that's what you did, right?
So we have done neither of those. So we have got Super Tuscan, and we have got
South Africa. South
Africa. So
Yep.
I love both these wines. Both these wines have a lot of Cabernet Franc in them. A bit of Merlot, a bit of Petit Verdot, a bit of Cab in the...
There's no Verdot in the Warwick, I think. But
so we're mainly Cab Franc, bit of Merlot, Merlot, Cab Franc,
Merlot.
Cab. So, and a bit of Petit Verdot in the Super Tuscan.
So
similar-ish blends.
Yep. Different parts of the world.
Style, different parts of the world. And neither place, unless you're really into your Super Tuscan, it's not where you expect to get these Bordeaux blends from.
Yeah.
When we talk about Italy, we talk about in Tuscany, Chianti, which is Sangiovese. Yeah. When we go to South Africa, we talk about reds. We talk about Pinotage, Syrah, those kind of things. Wow. So it's kind of cool doing these. So
we haven't done this side by side before. So we are tasting what you're tasting very first time, and I think it's worth saying that Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon is it's the son or daughter, depending on which one to go for. It's a child of Cabernet Sauvignon. Of Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc. So we got these these wines, and generally Cabernet Franc is a bit green. It tastes of kind of tomato leaf,
green pepper.
Those
kind of things.
Those kind of things. If it gets ripe enough, it doesn't taste of any of those things. It's wonderful.
What was really interesting that I was told by an Argentinian winemaker that a lot of, and Kathy will correct me if I'm wrong here, but a lot of Argentinian wines and Argentina in general are moving away from Malbec and drinking Cabernet Franc instead. And
Jamie, it's my favourite grape.
And I've spoken to a lot of California winemakers who go, Cabernet Franc is what people want Cabernet Sauvignon to be, because it loses a bit of that greenness, a little bit of that tannin, and Cabernet Franc I feel is just a little bit more drinkable when it's young than Cabernet Franc is a little bit more drinkable when it's young than Cabernet Sauvignon, and I think that's really cool.
All about ripeness with that. Basically the position, the reason why it tastes unripe, the reason why it tastes bitter. Why would a plant do that? They want you to eat their fruit. They want you to eat their seeds and take them somewhere else so that the plant then grows somewhere that it couldn't spread itself. They want it to spread that. That is the evolutionary reason why these plants have these chemicals in. They don't want you to eat an unripe seed because then there's no point. So these green chemicals, the bitter chemicals, are made.
Please ask Johnsy when he is coming to the studio to hang out with us, because this is epic this evening. This is absolutely
really
epic.
good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this is a proper tight ending, because I don't know which one wins. I genuinely don't know. But what I do know is those green chemicals are designed to stop you drinking it. Like, they want you to not drink it. That's why they make them. So to get Cab Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon ripe is key, and you need heat for that. So we got South Africa, we got Stellenbosch.
Absolutely. So wine 5. So this is another wine from the Jackson family estate. So this is their Tuscan project.
More Jacksons. Excellent.
So there's Arcanum, which is their top end Super Tuscan, which is amazing. Cabernet Sauvignon, bit of Sangiovese in there, but mind-blowingly good, but also very expensive. So this is Alfalma, which is the fawn of Arcanum, and introduced this when it first got released into the United States. So this got to be like 10, 12 years ago, and there's a couple of master songs talking about it. And they were very clear, it's not a second label, okay? So sometimes you have like Sassicaia and then Alberto, which is definitely the second label.
You can have that, or you can be a
But
cheapskate.
this is, we make a different style, a more approachable, a more drinkable, having
I like that.
The Arcanum you want to lay down for 10 years. But the Fauna, would this be better after 3-4 years?
I think so,
Maybe it might grow a little bit,
but
it's drinkable now.
That's
if you open
fantastic.
2019 Arcanum now, you go, holy moly, mouth doesn't work anymore. But this is fresh, it's
Too
drinkable.
tannic, too acidic,
There's
too...
enough structure to keep it going.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so it'll go up a little bit.
There is enough structure to keep
But
going.
after about another 3-4 years, it'll plateau.
That starts to drop.
It won't drop. 15 years, it'll drop off in 15 years. So you've got plenty of time, but it's not going to get any better.
If you want something to drink in 20 years' time, it's almost got to be undrinkable now. And that is the harsh truth about it.
Is that what you're saying about your winemaking style?
That's my excuse for sure, yeah.
There we are.
Can you imagine Alex's wine in 20 years?
That's
Yes.
Solaris from the back end of Berkhamsted.
It'd be good on chips.
I'm not even sure about if it would be good on chips.
Stranders in
Wow,
right, but-
okay. So, So Arcanum, that's cool. That's a very good one. I think I agree with some of the people who said that when they smell it, it's subtle. That is quite subtle.
It is, but it's got power when you drink it.
real
Drink
power.
it's boom, wow.
Can I be controversial? I think the Warwick is more subtle on the nose than the Ilford.
I haven't tried it. Let's give it a go.
I'm gonna be
Yes.
blunt. No.
Okay,
Really?
so no,
I'm
actually,
wrong. Okay.
no, I don't think you're wrong. I think
We just disagree.
But isn't that brilliant? It's all subjective.
it's all subjective. I don't think it's. I agree with both of you, like tactically, and I'm not saying this because I want you to like me because I know you both think I'm an idiot. So, for me, it is overall.
Look at that,
flat. Poor Alex.
Rebecca. We've just learned out that Rebecca does not like her in-laws.
Wow, she really hates it.
I feel very sorry for your in-laws, Rebecca.
Who's
Oh
in-laws?
my god. Anyone else's or her husband's? But yeah.
Which way's it going?
Wow. Okay, I'm going to keep going with this line because
Yeah,
I think I'm confident with this. Overall, it's a bit less. It's a bit more subdued compared to the Arcanum, but I think it's more focused. I think that there are a few peaks which stand out a bit more. So I can smell more intense fruit flavors, but not as many. So it's like there's more
Okay.
there's little things going a bit higher, but overall it's a bit less. It's a different of, can you smell a strawberry, really strong strawberry,
Yeah.
or can you smell a fruit salad? That is a strong fruit salad, and that is a strong strawberry.
Oh, okay.
So that's my. I'm not saying that strawberry is the one that I smell. It's more kind of like cassis, cherry, blackberry kind of thing.
This has a more complex nose, and this has a more
Complex,
pointed nose.
Pointed, exactly. Yeah,
But
that's my view.
Same level of intensity,
On those.
but you might think that that's
Yeah.
more intense because you think,
Yeah,
or
when I
you
go,
might think
wow,
it's
I
more
get
intense because it's got
loads
more
of that.
going on.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
That's where we're getting to.
My God, have we come up to a conclusion? Holy
have.
shit.
We have, absolutely.
Okay.
Have we
That's all
got the tasting notes?
Can we
moving
move
on
the
so we
tasting
can
notes
do
on
that?
to wine number 6?
Sorry, I'm just selling cab for
Number 5 says tannin, and of course, it's a wine that's designed to be aged. You will get
Loads.
tannins.
Chewy, tobacco, menthol, bacon, pepper, but it's
Complex
such good
bacon
tasting. I
mint.
love these tasting notes. This
Yeah.
is my kind of wine.
Cherry and mint.
Bacon to me, boys.
So you get a pig.
No, I don't mean the meat. I mean, what?
So
what's
you get
coming through?
you get this kind of almost like gaming, and it's not like having a piece, but when you get that bacon fattiness, you got that smokiness that you
Yeah.
get from something that grill.
The
It's like-
earthiness that comes from the
Yeah.
flavour.
No, I kind of
Yeah.
get it. I kind of get it.
I'm with them on the bacon. It's like, if you have a cheeseburger, you don't taste bacon, but it changes in a way that is kind of cool. So number
Black
5,
definitely.
is tannic. It is tannic, for sure.
Blackcurrant going
It could
on
age
to
for a lot longer.
blackcurrant going on to Kathy's notes earlier from Gooseberries.
Yeah.
Blackcurrant is another thing that Americans don't get because they had all their blackberry trees. Sorry, blackcurrant
Blackcurrant
trees.
trees.
Blackcurrant
Oh,
trees.
interesting.
Yeah.
How do they get Ribena?
They don't.
How do they live without Ribena? But the mint, I think, is the coolest thing. So the mint is the freshness that, as the green, underripe flavours go down, you get mint left. Menthol. What other ones are there?
Okay, what is
you
bear
do
meat?
get green pepper.
I do not bear
No,
meat.
don't. That's my husband.
Okay, whoever's bear meeting it needs to get it.
I did accidentally eat bear meat in Japan when I went there, but let's gloss over that. Compare these two.
So
What are the?
before we do, I've talked a bit about kind of. Do you want to talk about Warwick Estate? Because every time we do South Africa, you've apparently been there.
Oh,
so
have I?
You can tell that story.
Well, that's a bit rude to assume that I've been to a wine estate just
Okay.
because it was in South Africa.
Have you been to Warwick Estate?
I have.
Was it on your honeymoon?
It was.
Please.
Walked into that one,
Okay,
didn't
sorry.
I?
Before you tell the story, can we please ban Joanna Bell because the bear will never be the new manager? I'm disappointed. I'm just disappointed.
John Cheese had interesting meats in Japan. Yeah, you don't have a clue what you're going to get served, and suddenly you've eaten it, and it's
Okay.
like, did you like it? Yes. Oh, it's a horse. Oh,
So-
horse sashimi.
So let's dive into Warwick.
Oh, so Warwick.
Warwick.
Look, for God's sake, I don't remember much about it because I was on my honeymoon, and we'd ridden horses throughout the morning in Stellenbosch.
We don't want to know what else you did on your honeymoon.
I
Just
can
Warwick.
go into more detail if you'd like. But just north of the beautiful city of Stellenbosch, which has all this wonderful old architecture, you find the Warwick Estate, and it's right next to a lake. And we just went there, and we brought home a bottle of the 2011 trilogy. It was just, it was just perfect. It had the softness of an aged Bordeaux. It had the cleanness of something that was young and fresh, and we've ridden there on a horse, and as the guy from the Old Spice advert said, I'm on a horse. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
That has
You
got
must have
nothing
seen
to
that. I'm
do
on a
with
horse,
this.
but it was great.
We're tangenting.
They have a whole range of wines. It is probably one of the best wine estates in South Africa these days. And Tim Atkin, who actually is a
people got the option to
really
put their
nice
tasting
guy. Where is it? It's Stellenbosch, north of Stellenbosch, and all of their grapes are grown around the area. It's brilliant. But Stellenbosch is great for Cabernet Sauvignon blends. What it brings into it, and I think if you have a smell and you think eucalyptus, can you smell that minty, menthol-like eucalyptus smell? I can. I really can. Can you? You might need a bit more.
It's got
It's
that
there, isn't it?
fragrance. It's got that
Yeah.
medicinal herbaceousness.
And that comes from these massively tall trees that were imported to South Africa and planted, yes, by colonialists. Good and bad, mostly bad, probably. And they planted these trees. And these trees, Carl Lambor from Tukara Estate, another amazing Stellenbosch estate where, have I mentioned, I went to go visit.
continue, you can do
Anyway,
it.
Carl said the thing that people don't appreciate about these trees is that they are pumps. I went, what? They are pumps. I'm like, sorry, what do you mean they're pumps? They sprout this root network, and it draws all of this water in, and it then infuses it with essential oils, and it spreads them out into the vineyard. And he told us exactly how much it was doing. I can't remember, but it was a staggering amount of water was getting sucked up by the trees and dumped into the air and dropped onto the grapes. And so when it drops onto the grapes, it goes in the press, and you've got the essential oils, the
It's the same way
eucalyptus,
when we were previously about wines having salinity because they get salt because it's by the ocean. These takes like eucalyptus or mint or whatever it is because there's these essential oils hit the skins
God.
and go on from there.
Damn, that's good. These are two cracking wines. I don't know what
So hey,
wow, I don't know what to go for.
Okay, let's have a look. Let's have a look at tasting notes for the.
Yes, boss.
Absolutely.
I don't know what I'd go for with this.
But similar
I
things,
really
big
do.
tannin,
Herbal.
big herbal, and that's there.
And the herbal comes from what is surrounding the vineyard, the fine bush, all of these.
It's
cool...
a weird tasting note, but it's right. Vicks. It's got that
Oh,
real
it's
kind
so
of. It's
menthol.
got that
Menthol.
mentally thing. Medicinal.
It's fucking menthol.
Stop swearing. That's not.
There's a joke, but
No, it's not a joke.
it is quite a good joke, to be fair.
We don't know right now. So we've got
Water time.
okay. There's
Hakuna Matata. What a wonderful phrase.
So anyway, my point is, let's have a little look at favourites of this round. Is it either 5 or 6? And then we're going to take a little move to.
I think it goes straight on to one.
It does go to one of the night.
So tell us in the chat. Which do you prefer? The Italian one, which is astonishingly good, or that which is fragrant and fresh and punchy? That is, it's a great partner to some amazing food. That is something that's its own thing on its own right. So I love it. Wow.
So there's a 5
So
in there.
Julia loves number 5.
There's
Yeah.
a 5 in there.
It's great wine. Wow.
We're going to go for wine of the night, but I'd also like to see, personal opinion. Who won? Is it Old World? Is it New World? Were you surprised by the wines? Because I really, really think over the next 10 years we're going to see this whole Old World, New World disappear. I really do.
Can we duplicate? I don't know if we can do this while we're in it. Can we duplicate the first question? And
Yes, and then you just drag it down.
it's there. No, it's not. Where's it gone?
I duplicated the wrong one, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay. It's the Old World, New World one. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Caroline's getting excited.
So, we are putting back, and I think actually this question is: are you, which do you prefer, Old World or New World? Because I know my answer to this, and I'm actually really surprised by this because I have quite strong opinions. Have you noticed?
No.
No.
Never knows.
No. Wow.
You know what? Anything is a breakfast wine if you've got enough, Joanna. Anything. So Old World wines were more integrated and
Wow.
balanced. Yeah, that's a good.
I agree with that. They were, for sure. The other ones had bits which stuck out a bit. And you will find Old World wines which have things that stick out and are terrible. And you'll find New World wines which are incredibly balanced. So we're just judging the ones we're tasting tonight, and that's good. But
I think we get to the point that none of these wines are like. If you sit, the Bouchard is a great wine.
It's
It doesn't matter where you sit. But it's interesting to see the Il Fama's doing very well for a Cabernet Franc from Italy. Maybe not something you'd
50%
expect.
Cab Franc. 48 or whatever it is.
The very classic Chablis sits behind the New World Chardonnay at the moment. This is the joy.
God.
It's each their own and each for their
These are
personal kind
great.
of thing.
Can I just take a moment because
if I say no, you're going to anyway.
I'm going to.
With Caroline, put you front and centre of the camera.
Leave it as for the Alex Taylor show.
Yeah, we need to get him back front and centre. Get the tasting notes off.
Right.
He's having a moment.
The moment is to say, I had a really fixed idea when it was my thought to do the Old World, New World thing and pull it. I insisted. We're not going to not do this. We've got to do it. I think Jamie, you were a bit hesitant because there are so many different directions you can go in. But he selected all the wine, and I think he has done a sensational job with some bloody brilliant wines there that I would never hesitate. So whatever the hell the the survey comes up with, I've been changed by tonight. I've had my position
by the way,
changed.
I
So
like
thank
your
you.
opinion, but Jonty's running the game again. So back to Jonty's point, if we bring this up. Jonty, you are man of the match. Man of the match.
Definitely, man.
You are my new Gareth Southgate for the online wine tasting club. So, to what extent did I pick the wines? So,
Ask him.
when we popped the prices up,
Yeah.
what I tried to do is I wanted them to be relatively classic, but I also wanted there to be a quality where I thought they were a similar quality
Yeah.
and a relatively similar price point. So when we popped the prices up, the first round was a little bit difficult because Chablis is inherently expensive. But for the next two rounds, they're within a couple of quid. So price, I wanted to be, when we looked at the numbers, that price point didn't matter. That we said, oh, well,
Important,
the New World, you know, I preferred the Old World one, but the New World one was £8 more expensive or cheaper or whatever, so I picked the other way. Yeah. We wanted to try and make each round fair for quality, price point, and style. So we can pop the prices up now if everyone's voted. Let's have a quick.
Should we have a look at the
Let's have a quick last look at the votes.
Let's have a look at that.
So we've got the Alfano. Well, big fan of the Reds tonight. Everyone was in for the Reds
Everyone's
tonight.
Reds. But the Chardonnays were so close.
Chardonnays were
Oh
so close.
my God.
And Pinot Noir came last, so Ian Burris must be voting. But there we go. So I think this is a
That's
good thing
cool.
that, you know.
The trilogy is epic and people loved it, but the Alfano is sensational.
The Alfano is great, and what I love about
God.
that being top of the list is I don't think that would be a wine that, without trying, people would walk into a shop and pick
No,
up
I'd
and
never
walk away
bought
with and drink
that.
it.
I just don't go for those.
So let's pop the prices up so everybody can see. You know,
But you might be surprised. You might be surprised.
you might be surprised. You know,
you might not be,
It's
but-
adventurous, so we've not got millions of cheapo wines,
No,
but
it's-
I think that offers some really good value as we see everything creeping up money-wise.
Isn't that insane?
You
Like,
know,
he's
but-
matched them so well. But the first round, the Cherubino Chardonnay obviously was cheaper, but I would have picked the Cherubino over them.
Okay.
I love the Chablis.
The William Febvre is very classic. The Cherubino's got a little bit more nuance about it. There's other
but
things going
it
on.
had more of that southern
The
Burgundy
Bouchard
style.
and Cambria is all about what you liked. Do you like that rich style? Do you like that more earthy style?
Yeah.
And the two, it was just great to do Burgundy that wasn't
Wow.
not Burgundy, Bordeaux, that wasn't Bordeaux, and just to show that you can see these great international grapes growing very, very well.
That's
in
incredible.
other
What
places.
great wines.
So we've tried to make it easy. If you like
Yeah.
the wines, you can scan the QR code. You can go to the link. It's free shipping on any 6 bottle. There's a load more wines in the wine shop right
Yeah,
now.
we're
so you
loading
can-
them up.
You can mix and match and do whatever you want. So next month, for those of you who join us on the subscription,
Before you do
What
that,
do you want
can
to
we
do?
switch to the Old World, New World question so that we can say, has your opinion been changed by tonight?
Yeah,
Have you become an Old World person? You actually really like that complex style, earthy style? Or have you now thought, actually, the New World can make wines that are just as complex and interesting as the Old World? So that'd be really interesting.
everyone's going to be an equal opportunity, aren't they? That's what I am.
I mean, I hope so. But
that means you've changed options.
it's changed.
So-
We've changed the
So
perceptions.
if there's any
So
other
that's
final,
why we do this.
Any other final thoughts or points in the chat
Yeah.
would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Seriously, you guys in the chat tonight has been spectacular. And this is what
Spectacular,
makes
thank
this
you.
all about. Leading the tasting so we can give you the information that you need and
Yeah.
get excited about it. So next month we're doing Fortified. We're going to do it as a pre-recorded because we know Christmas gets busy and everyone kind of runs
Yeah.
around. But we've got a couple of great interviews coming up that should be really, really
Be good.
fun.
Be good.
And at the end of this month, we're running the sales through till the next couple of days, but I am doing a one-off wine tasting, so it's not including any subscription, but with J-Law Vineyards, and the VP of winemaking, Steve Peck, is going to be joining us. It's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be one of our old school Zoomy Zoom kind of things, but some amazing wines. So if you've got a
You've
chance
got to
to
do
get
it. You've
in,
got to do it. It's fantastic.
you've got to get a chance. I'm literally going to sit there and go, "Hi, Steve. And then he's going to talk for an hour about these amazing wines from J Law.
So,
Absolutely fantastic.
I can't join it live. I've got something else that night, so I'm buying one and I'm gonna watch
I
it.
didn't see the point when you were invited.
Well, I bought one off our website like every other bloody person. So
Lots. Anyway, so
Hashtag
we're
not.
doing that. We've got that going on. And the new year, we're going to be doing trends. So our Discover series is going to be what we think are going to be great grapes and styles for next year. And the Adventure series for you guys, we're going to be looking at winemaking techniques, things like regenerative farming, and what's really kind of hot in the wine industry. So that should
mostly
be a lot of
regenerative
fun.
agriculture. That's what I'm putting my care into, my thoughts and my processes. It's fantastic. I love it. I think there are things in winemaking which make you think, is that really a thing? Organic. Like I'm going, yeah, you can spray your crops with anything, but you only if it's made of these things. I'm like, but one of those things poisons your soil. It poisons it literally. And then you go to biodynamic and it's like bloody it's all about
Oh, sorry, I'm going to go back to Joanna Bell. Yes, we did a podcast this week with Lee Isaacs, One Man 147, and Fergus Elias,
co-host,
the winemaker at
Balfour Hush Heath.
Balfour Hush Heath. If you get a chance, it was a lot of fun. We got to chat with them for a while. They are wonderful, wonderful people.
Good therapy for us.
And for those who've been on a while, you probably know Lee. He's hosted with us a couple of times.
He'll be back
so
in the future.
It's The Maker and the Merchant. It's on all good places to get your
Apple
podcast,
Spotify,
wherever you like to do it.
Everything.
So get in and listen to that for at least 4 minutes until you get bored of the sound of our voice. But that's what we've got. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
We're not going to see you live again before Christmas, actually, unless you join J Law. So have a great holiday season. Enjoy Fortified. Loads of stuff in the wine shop, and we will see you all again in 2023.
We will. But it's worth saying one final thing, which is that this is for real. We know we've announced this in the past. This is our last presentation from Tring Winery. We are immensely proud of what we've achieved at Tring Winery, and primarily what Jamie has achieved at Tring Winery. Jamie and his brother Dan, and we have had some wonderful customers. We've had some events which are unforgettable. We have to give it up at the end of the year because the rent's gone up 25%, the electric's gone up like 300%. What it means for you guys is that we're going to focus on giving you the best experience that we can. We're going to go to the vineyards finally and go exploring around the world. It's going to be a good change. So if you want any wines, if you live locally to us, you can get them through the online wine tasting.
If you don't live locally,
if you don't,
we'll still get it to you.
We'll still get it to you.
So, absolute pleasure. 2023 is going to be a very, very exciting year for the Online Wine Tasting Club, and we're really, really happy
Very excited
that you are
as well.
all a part of it.
Thank you so much.
Have a great night. Caroline's going to roll credits before he keeps
She is.
talking.
Oh, am I?
Good night,
Yes,
and we will look forward to seeing you very, very soon for the Christmas
2023.
tasting.
See you soon.
Good night.
Bye.